would say that I have experienced deep bitterness.
So boyfriend, when you meet boyfriend number 101, you think you're just like boyfriend number 98. It's the same shit. I've been through this before.
Well,
It may be true. But I think in Christian culture and Western culture, we think of love as linked to self-sacrifice. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe you just have terrible taste in men, Leanne. I don't know. The pattern here is you, okay?
I know, and I can't even refute that because it's so true.
À-bas-le-ciel.
I'm very dishwashing centric, like for me, like I used to have a roommate. It was a rented house, but she was my roommate. So this is a woman, we're not romantically related, but she lived in the next room and we shared the rent on this house. So this woman was my roommate. And she fell in love with this guy, 110%. And she was totally committed, because I talked to her, like we're friends or whatever. She was totally committed in her mind. This man, she was going to marry him, and they were going to raise kids together, and like this was it for her. She was set. And she was old, but he was even older. So she was like 35 and he was 55. Like they were, Okay, so she was completely committed. And because I was her roommate, I knew about this. I was going out of town for let's say I was going to town for a week, I forget. And during that week when I was out of town, this guy was going to come in and stay in the house there, so they would have some time as a couple, alone in the house. Great, fine. So I knew about this and came back. And, so I came back from this trip. I was like, oh, great. So, so how did things go? She was like, it's over. I'm never going to spend 5 minutes with that guy again. It's done. And, she was so in love with this guy, but she had never had the simple experience of like doing laundry with him, washing the dishes together, like sharing a space that way, going out to a restaurant with somebody or going out to the movies or like going to Las Vegas. Those are really artificial settings where you don't know what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody. And obviously like talking over Skype or email or YouTube videos is also really artificial. I mean, my videos are like, I really behave the same way in real life that I do on YouTube, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I amp it up a bit on YouTube. I'm a bit more dramatic on YouTube. I'm a bit more emotional than I am in real life. Like in real life, if I was talking to Ryan from Happy Healthy Vegan face to face, would I have been quite so insulting or so? I ham it up, but I'm pretty close. But still, I just say I think in terms of when I think about a real relationship, the bedrock is having that experience of doing dishes together, of doing grocery shopping together, of mopping the floor, of doing laundry. And you never know who someone really is until you've done the dishes together.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So you're not, if you ain't done the dishes with me, you're not my girlfriend.
No, that's fair. I actually use like a similar way of like measuring where a relationship is. Like once we start doing things like, oh, I'm gonna go run some errands. Do you want to join? Like I kind of use that as like, okay, like this is going somewhere, right? I have to say, I'm the type of person who is highly emotional. I've been highly emotional my entire life.
Yeah. And you don't show that on YouTube. You actually don't see that on YouTube. That's interesting. Go on, yeah.
Oh, well, I'll get to that. Like there's a very distinct, like very deliberate choice on my end to come across that way. And it's because like my whole life, I guess it's like I'm emotional, but like I'm still logical enough, like detached from the emotion enough to recognize that in a lot of ways it does enhance my life. Like I can't to live in a different way. Like I can't even imagine it. I wouldn't want to, but in a lot of ways it does pose a lot of challenges for me, just like this heightened state of emotion. So to deal with that, like I've made a deliberate effort to just really, not snap at someone or just not to have an emotional outburst. So in a way, even though I am so emotional, like I am so much more controlled than the average person. Like it takes, I like it whenever I'm patient with someone, like it takes such a substantial effort. Like it takes so much out of me to just not react, I think it takes more effort for me than the average person, but yet I think the average person would still have that emotional outburst, despite it being easier for them not to do it than it would be for me. But it's just strange that the emotion would lead me to be more controlled
Yes.
over it. I don't know. So with my YouTube channel, yeah, that is very deliberate because I find that I guess just this culture that we live in does value, I suppose, just like a cool detachment from a subject makes you appear more
Yeah.
credible than being highly emotional about it, which is something I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm working with the culture I'm living in. So it is very well practiced for me to be cool and detached, but it is certainly not my nature. And, I've been doing it for a long time. Like, I'm 24 at this point. I'm a
Yeah.
lot better than I was when I was 17.
Yeah.
So,
I think though, I
it,
mean, I think middle age will catch up for you with you that way because like I now identify as a middle aged person at 38, and I've gotten more emotional and more sentimental, and I love it. Like I mentioned to you, I watched this documentary, this vegan documentary, Life According to Ohad, and I broke down weeping like maybe 3 times watching it. Well, broke down is I wept. I wept watching it like 3 times, and I love that about myself. I love that I'm 38 and I can sit there and cry watching this doc. I love that. Like you know what I mean? I'm not trying to repress that. I love that I can exercise that side of my character. And again, like it's not like it's out of control. It's not like I break down weeping at work. You know what I mean? It's not like, I'm weeping when I'm in a situation where I can let myself weep. I love that. And by contrast, like back when I was like 19 to 21, I think the saddest and most terrible times of my life, like subjectively, was when I felt awful but I couldn't cry. When like you're in a terrible situation but you can't pour out emotion, or you can't express, even if it's just as an expression. When you can't express, you just sit there inert and feel like garbage. But yeah, I mean, there's really the kind of mean old man stereotype of getting less emotional as you get older, and that's not the case for me at all. And like, okay, to bring this back to veganism, but we could bring it back to anything else. Like in a positive way, when I was in Kunming, so I was living in China, but different part of China than I am now. When I was in Kunming, I went into this one meat restaurant. They do noodles because my teacher told me they could make vegan noodles there, which turned out to be totally untrue. But my teacher told me if you go in and try this restaurant, and so I'm waiting to talk to the person behind the counter to ask if they can make something vegan. And there's just this metal bowl sitting there, totally normal, antiseptic metal bowl that people use in kitchens with diced pork in it. The red meat in it. I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this bowl, which is not remarkable. It's diced up meat in a bowl, and I didn't weep openly, but like tears were coming to my eyes. I got really emotional standing looking at it. Why? Because it connects to so many meaningful things. I'm not just seeing the bowl. It's not just meat to me. It means a lot. You know what I mean? And I can have emotional which I love it. Like, I'm not complaining. I think it's great. I think it brings a lot of richness and depth to my daily life that wouldn't be there. Whether that's like in an ecological sense or in an ethical sense or an animal sense, I love that about middle age. I think that's great. I was not like that at 21. I was not.
well, I certainly agree with you. I mean, like, the lens in which I view the world, like this highly emotional lens, like it's exactly as you said. It does bring a depth, like a certain richness
Yeah.
to my life. I mean, I don't know any other way than this to experience the world. So I can't really compare it, but I just based off talking with other people, actually, just because we were talking about it earlier, usually the guys I date, maybe this is the problem. The guys I always date are very like logical and like
Yeah.
cold. And I think in a way it's we at first I think at first it works out because these guys, I show them what it's like to see in color, to use a metaphor. Like they just never
Yeah.
experience someone who's just so emotional about everything. But then I think. And then I like them because they keep me grounded, I suppose. You know, that I'm too much of a dreamer, I guess, and they're more so like a realist. But then I don't know. I guess we get sick of each other. I don't know. But to say that, like I said, it does hinder my life in a lot of ways living this way. But I agree. I wouldn't change it for anything. It's the reason why I'm vegan. It I didn't go vegan because logically I thought, oh yes, that's immoral or for the environment or health reasons, right? Like I went vegan because I imagine this little animal suffering and
Yeah,
it broke my heart. And that's all I went vegan in a day. Like I have a video on it, right? Like it just took one moment to realize like, oh yes, this animal does have feelings and it broke my heart. And that's all it took. I never looked back.
I think, I just say it so that I am actually partly saying this as advice for you as you get older. I think it's really sad that in Western culture, like sadness has kind of a like sadness is a bad thing. You're not supposed to feel sad, or joy or any of those other like simple childlike emotions. I think it's really, really positive to keep feeling the simple childlike emotions. I think what in a sense you have to avoid, because like it's fine whether it's your boyfriend pissing you off and you feel sadness or anger or something. Like, I think those simple childlike emotions really get a bad reputation. I think what you got to avoid are the more complex and compounded and indirect emotions like bitterness. And it's really difficult, like on a subjective level, to define even what bitterness is. But like I saw that, we'll use the bowl of meat, and then we'll use like a boyfriend-girlfriend example. Like when I see that that bowl of meat, I'm directly feeling sad. And I didn't weep, but tears did actually come to my eyes. But I'm not feeling hatred against the woman behind the counter. I'm not feeling bitterness or anger, and it's not like bringing back memories that I'm bitter about other meat eaters I had a fight with, or like your own parents or something. Sorry, not in your case. I know actually you have a really good relationship with your parents. Most vegans, we've had like our parents screaming at us that we're insane because we're vegan or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that memory can come back and be really be bitterness, be a negative emotion. At my age, like this is again like why am I dating younger women? One of the real problems you have if you're talking about women who are 35, a lot of them, when they meet me, they don't really see me. They don't really react to me. They're so into feelings of bitterness from the relationships they had in the past. They're still reacting to the guy they're mad at from last year or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They've got bitterness, memories mixed with emotion in this kind of complex way. And, again, it's like, fine, if you want to be mad at me, if you want to hate me, that's fine. The problem is bitterness. The problem is not like joy or sorrow or sadness. I think it's really positive to be able to be in touch with those emotions and radiate them. But in a sense, I think what you're trying to avoid as you get in the middle age, you're trying to avoid letting the bitterness of past experience pollute those feelings and make those things more complex and counterproductive. Yeah. That's my wisdom my wisdom of how to be middle-aged.
Well, you say that. I would say that I have experienced deep bitterness.
So boyfriend, when you meet boyfriend number 101, you think you're just like boyfriend number 98. It's the same shit. I've been through this before.
Well,
it may be true.
You're not even necessarily that far off, but
maybe you just have terrible taste in men, Leanne. I don't know. The pattern here is you, okay?
I know. And I can't even refute that because it's so true. Like none of these guys are willing to try veganism for me. Like I just have the worst taste. So you're not the only one who sees it. Like everyone else can see it and I can see it, but I just don't know how to be more proactive about it. I don't know what to do.
I've been talking about this a lot lately because I had a week where maybe 3 different women were really pursuing me at the same time on the internet. But the thing, like I think I said to all 3 of them was, look, like it's really odd for me because I have this deep contrast between these women who are pursuing me on the internet who are 1, vegan, and 2, they generally already know me really well from YouTube. And again, I don't just have YouTube. Like I also have articles I've written that are on the internet, like whether they're articles about Buddhism or politics, but like in a really non-shallow sense. Before the first date, these women know me better than most people know each other after the 10th date. You know what I mean? And then the contrast is I'm here in China, and there are gorgeous women here. There are women here who are extremely attractive, objectively. And they've got a leather purse and leather shoes. And it's not just that they don't know me. I definitely feel in most cases they're never going to know me. and there's almost no point. You know what I mean? Like, if I was going to have a relationship with this woman, am I really going to try to tell her who I am or what's going on in the other parts of my life? Or are you just going to have a relationship that's not even on that level? That is such a weird contrast to live with, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I can't complain. You know this. I think we talked about this in our first conversation. It lasted like 4 hours. But our first conversation, I think I said to you, like, for me, like, the big motivating factor for getting on YouTube and getting on social media, even before that, when I just had a blog, was when I left Cambodia, I was alone. When I left Taiwan, I was alone. Even within Canada. Yeah, I did. I remember talking about that with you. It's like, look, when you leave and move to Winnipeg, you're going to lose all those friends. Those people are not going to stay in touch with you who knew you in university or just knew you in another city in Canada. And it was like, on YouTube, some people love you and some people hate you, but at least you're not alone. So yeah, I'm totally grateful for that. No matter how much horrible bullshit I go through, no matter how many lies Vegan Cheetah tells about me, or even if Durian Rider eventually does beat me up, if he eventually does kick my ass, we finally have the boxing match or whatever, that's really, really positive to me, is having people in your life who care about you, who aren't going to disappear when you buy your next airplane ticket. Yeah, it counts for a lot.
Yeah. Just like going off of like you talking about the women there with like the leather bags and just knowing that they'll never know you. Yeah. I think that's something like, yeah, like there's the vegan component. Like, yes, non-vegans they'll never really understand, but like even beyond that, just on with other way, like on other levels, I find in general that I don't know. I don't want to make myself out as like a special snowflake. Like I can't. That's not my purpose here at all. But I maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a mood. But I truly don't think I'll ever find someone who will love me as much as I love them.
Yeah.
Like, and the reason why I say that
is so sad. Jesus Christ.
I know, but let me.
You're so bitter at 24. You're not bitter. You're crestfallen. You're just wow.
Let me explain. Yeah. And it's just not even necessarily coming out of like my own dating failures, right? It's just coming out of like observing the world, I guess, because when I'm with someone, it's like there is literally nothing I wouldn't do. They could move across the world for like 2 years, and if I love them, like, okay, I just won't see you for 2 years. Like, I'm with you, but I don't know, maybe it's just the culture or something, but no one, or maybe I'm just weird, but no one seems to want to do that. Like, it doesn't mean anything to them. So, and I think in a way, the reason why I am this way is like my own parents, right? I think they were apart for like a year, like, and they survived that. Like, they didn't see each other for a full year or something. And like, they're so utterly devoted to each other. And man, I don't know. I haven't seen that anywhere outside of my own parents' relationship. So,
Liana, I want to assure you, you can definitely find someone who loves you as much as you love them. I don't think you should give up on that. Maybe there are a lot of things in life you should give up on, but no, I mean, I think you can find someone who's going to be devoted to you at that level in a practical sense. And of course, you can find someone who loves you as much as you love them. So this is because of your wording. You said you'll never love someone as much as they love you. So I've never had that problem. I've always been super committed to and super in love with the person I'm with, which worked out great in my first marriage, by the way. I should that worked out great. But I did love my first wife, and I've said a lot of positive things about her. I was in love with her for a reason. In some ways, she's a wonderful person, and in some ways, she's a terrible person. But she has a lot of positive qualities that way. I relocated many, many times for my wife. I moved from Cambodia to Canada. I moved from Canada to France. I moved from France to Taiwan, and we moved before that also. I was sacrificing my job interests and my educational interests again and again. But I think in Christian culture and Western culture, we think of love as linked to self-sacrifice. And maybe that's a bad thing. Like, in all my relationships, I was super self-sacrificing. And I think like self-sacrifice, I felt, like, not that the woman was asked for it, proved that I really loved her, that I was really, up for it. Yeah, like I felt it was like a really positive thing to drop out of a university program for my wife or for my girlfriend, whether we were married at the time, whatever. Like I really thought that was the most positive, loving thing. Say, yeah, I'm so into you, I'm gonna, change my plans and drop out of this program and plan a whole different future for you. But it's not. That's not positive. That's self-destructive. But so I wonder on some deep level, even though I've never been Christian, I'm brainwashed by Sesame Street like everyone else. Why do I think that self-sacrifice is such a positive thing?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point. I don't think I've ever heard anyone even challenge that notion,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I'll have to think about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting. I'd never even thought to challenge it. I guess if anything, I've usually been the one to defend that position or to promote that position. Like I'll be talking to someone about just what is love, and sometimes people will say, "Oh, it's a nice feeling you get about someone or something like so like trivial," and I'm like, no, like this is. I'd be like, no, this is what it is. It is what exactly what you said. It's self-sacrifice. It's serving someone else. But that's interesting. Okay. I don't know. Like for me, like I hear what you're saying. Like maybe just being self-destructive.
Right.
I don't. I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, it's deep, and I mean, I think ultimately it's because the self-sacrifice is linked to your ability to have children, your ability to reproduce as a human being. So I just say this. I mean, if this grosses you out, we can change the subject. I don't think this is too gross. But like, at the time my wife and I decided to have a baby, it was not an accidental pregnancy, by the way. It was planned out way in advance. The plan was, okay, she would quit her job, I would quit my university program or any possibility job, and we would both devote 24/7 for like 1 year to raising this baby, which we did. So I was a stay-at-home dad. I was doing absolutely nothing, except worry about the future, worry about my next job, worry about my career, and coddle this baby. You got to move, huh? It's cool. Oh, cool. Do it. And you really feel the extent to which that self-sacrifice is maybe a natural instinct, is an evolutionary behavior. Because let me tell you, during the first year of a baby's life, you sacrifice everything. Like, just sleep. You're never sleeping, right? You're not doing anything for yourself. All your time is devoted towards taking care of that newborn infant. Especially if you have an extended family, if you have grandparents helping you, if you have aunts and uncles and grandparents, then you're doing less. But we didn't. It was just the two of us with this baby 24/7. So I do think that self-sacrifice mentality or set of behaviors, I think there's an evolutionary component to it so that you can have and raise a baby. But I mean, the other side of it is, I guess, what you just call attachment. When I got together with my wife, it's like I was married. We were together for 6 years, my wife and I. When we moved to Saskatchewan, absolutely part of the plan that was explicitly discussed, like, we sat down with a pen and paper, like you were planning what you were going to do, was that we moved to Saskatchewan and then I'd be with her there for a few months, but then I was going to enroll in like a master's program. I was going to go back to university in one of the neighboring cities in Canada. So you know this better than most. Neighboring city in Canada is an unbelievable distance away. Like the distance between Regina and Alberta, any of the cities, it's huge. It's like, compared to other countries, like, oh yeah, it's the next major city. Like I'm just going from fucking Regina to Calgary. It's unbelievable the distance involved, right? Like, oh yeah, it's the next major city. So the university programs I was looking at, they were nearby, but it was a big deal. But she was committed to that. That was our plan in advance. It's like, okay, we're going to go to this part of Canada. And then she was only going to like see me on the weekends or something, or see me, a couple times a month, because I was going to be in the next city doing a university program. And after we got there, and first you're like busy for the first couple months just getting set up in your new apartment and stuff. And then it was like, okay, so now just like our plan, I'm going to apply for these university programs. Her position was, no, I love you. I need to be with you every day. It's totally unacceptable. Like you can't leave town for one day. Fuck. And like I respect it. Like it's wonderful. It's flattering. Like most people, like a lot of people wish they had a husband or wife or girlfriend who cared about them that much. Like it's great, but I'm sitting there and it's like, this was the plan. You know what I mean? Like I can't move forward in my career and my education if I have to stay within, 500 meters of you 7 days a week. This absolutely was the plan. And that was, okay, so that was a long time before we actually got divorced. But in a really simple sense, that is why we eventually did have to get divorced. I had this huge capacity for self-sacrifice, and in a sense, she had none. For her, it was like, no, I'm not even going to sacrifice, sleeping in the same bed as you every day. Which again, it's wonderful, it's flattering. She really loved me. Like, it's nothing fake about it, and I totally appreciate that I was in this relationship with someone who really loved me, was passionate about me that much. But if you can't sacrifice to let me go back to school, what can you do? So yeah. Self-sacrifice and reproduction.
I can kind of relate to that. With like my relationship that lasted the longest. It was the same dynamic. I was the one who would sacrifice everything, like everything, and then he was the one, like he was. I'm hesitant to say he loved me. I think it was like obsession, right?
Oh yeah.
But like he just did not have the capacity to sacrifice anything, which was. It wasn't the only reason why we eventually broke up. There was other reasons. It was inevitable. Like we got together when we were pretty young. We changed a lot. My priorities changed a lot. But yeah, I can really relate to that. It really became like I think I've heard enough of your videos that maybe you can relate to this. Like it really became like toxic in that sense where like I was giving and giving and giving and like I gave everything that I could, and then he would take the rest, like it was.
Yep.
Yeah. So to say like, I look back on that and I think, well, did he actually love me if he could be so selfish? And I have to say, no, he didn't. It would depend on your definition of love, but like, just because I think that element of self-sacrifice is so necessary, and he was just utterly lacking it. Like he had that emotional component, right? He was obsessed with me, but he couldn't sacrifice anything. So I don't know. I would say no, he didn't love me.
Yeah. Like the other thing that's funny about how technology changes relationships, and this is not about YouTube. This is not about YouTube or Facebook or whatever. But like, in the old days, so like I used to live in Laos and Cambodia, as I've mentioned a million times. One of the reasons why those countries so much embraced violence and just didn't care about their kids going to war and killing each other in meaningless circumstances, including like, so today we have this sport, Thai kickboxing. That sport historically used to be fatal. It used like the historical, like the modern form, they have padding and all this stuff. You look into the history of that sport, they used to have these small hooked knives on their fists. It was unbelievably gruesome for us. And like you asked yourself, what parent would let their 15-year-old son or 12-year-old son do this? Like you get maimed and killed in this sport. Well, like again, to me, believe that this is coming back to self-sacrifice. When you have 12 kids, your attitude is different, right? When you got 12 kids, if 6 of them die in the army, maybe you don't care so much. If you've got 4 wives and 6 slaves, your life is different. So I do think that in the historical past, maybe people could have relationships and could raise kids without that kind of sacrifice, because because there were so many people cooperating in the process. Multiple wives, multiple slaves, extended family. But today, when a couple, you rely so much on just that one other person and nobody else for everything. And that's enabled by technology. I've never had a servant. I've never had someone else, clean my apartment. Either I'm going to do it or my girlfriend's going to do it or we do it together. And it's like that for everything. It's like that for mopping the floor and changing the baby. Nobody else ever changed my baby's diaper. It was either me or my wife or both of us together. That's it. You know what I mean? The whole, like everything, whether it's, whether or not you have kids, everything in the relationship, you're cooperating so much. And I that wasn't the case 500 years ago. 500 years ago, it was really, all of these were group activities. So yeah, I think that capacity for self-sacrifice is much, much more important now than it ever was in the past.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. Huh.
Well, right. And also, like, whether or not your parents are crazy used to matter more in the past, too, right? Because if I was marrying you to raise kids together, your parents would be so much more involved. It would be this whole, group of people coming together in the family.
I'm Italian. Like, that it's not something of the past where the parents are overly involved, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how Italian you are, though. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, okay. Myself, no, like I don't really identify as like Italian, but like my mom speaks Italian, right? Like the mom's side. I mean, now that the older generation, they're kind of, yeah. There's just no crude way of saying it. Like they're all gone now, but so they don't really speak Italian that much. Like they used to speak Italian for the benefit of like the first generation, but yeah, they're pretty Italian, and just in terms of like cultural ideals. I think my mom, she's she's extremely devoted to her children. Like she's really not doing well now that her kids have left the nest. And whenever she comes to visit me, like she was just here actually a couple days ago. Like she was here for 5 minutes, and she just puts on the rubber gloves and she's already cleaning. And I'm just like, Ma, you don't have to do that. But that's just who she is. That's how she was raised. That's what a mom has got to do. So she does it.
Yeah, but even so, even if those are her values, if you have a baby in Winnipeg, which is not that far away, how much is your mom going to be involved? She could be. If your mom's retired already or something, she could move to Winnipeg to be there. But I just say like those are the big, big decisions. Is does family still last in the 21st century where people move all around the world and get another home in another place and all this stuff, Yeah. That would be hard for your mom. Hard for her too.
It's funny you should say that, just because my parents, they are following me to Winnipeg. And my mom has explicitly stated that wherever I wind up and get married and have kids, like she's gonna drag my dad and they're gonna live there because she wants to be part of like my future children's life. And I'm like, all right, free babysitting, I'm cool with that.
There's so much pressure on you once you have a kid to try to positively cooperate with everyone you can possibly cooperate with, even if they're crazy, even if you hate them, even if you still resent the terrible things they did to you in the past. It's such a pressure on you because your alternative is to hire, help, to hire servants, to hire babysitters. And I'll give you, 2 reasons, where that's so hard for me. One is veganism, like someone helping take care of your kid who doesn't really do veganism. And the other is, I believe in soap. This has come up on my YouTube channel. I believe in washing your hands with soap, and I don't think I'm phobic about it. Like I don't think I'm like a maniac for cleanliness. But like when I was living in the south of France, I was meeting people with a university education who would drop a piece of food on the floor and pick it up and eat it with their fingers. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't think I'm that extreme, but like, and I would not, like, if my hands are dirty, like if you've been petting your dog, I would not let you pet your dog and then put your finger inside my daughter's mouth. You know what I mean? Like as little kids, you do have to put your finger, you have to take something out of their mouth or whatever, or wipe their nose. They'd be like, no, you have to wash your hands or use a handkerchief or something. I don't think I'm crazy. But apparently, I'm in the tiny minority of human beings who believe that bacteria and viruses exist. Like,
okay, well, surely you've heard of the 5-second rule, right?
I've heard of what? I just couldn't hear that phrase. I've heard of
the 5-second rule, right? Although,
do you practice the 5-second rule? I don't know.
It depends on the food. So let me, like, yeah, if I drop something like moist, then no, like that's done, right? That I'm not going to eat that. But if you're telling me that if you're in your own house, and you drop a potato chip on the floor, like you're not going to eat it.
I know exactly how dirty my own floor is. Why would my own house be any better? I And what, you think I have any delusion my own feet are so clean? No, I don't. If I drop, I don't do anything like that. So again, the women in my life have all commented on this in different ways. I don't care about tidiness. I care about hygiene. For me, they're really different things. Like, and some of these other guys, I wonder if they're heterosexual. Like, both Vegan Cheetah and Ted Carr are obsessed with tidiness, with having like an empty, clean space. And they talk about it on YouTube. And I'm really, like, I know it's like racist of me, but I'm sitting there wondering, like, are you really heterosexual? It's so alien to me to hear a straight man talk about tidiness. And they all have conflict with, like, Cheetah also. He's, like, mad at his girlfriend because she doesn't keep his, like, apartment tidy enough and shit. Like, I don't care about making the bed. Why? If the room is empty, if you can't see the bed, who gives a fuck what state the bed sheets are in? Like, it's not about cleanliness. Like, that's tidiness, not cleanliness. But no, if I dropped a fork on the floor, I would not put that fork in my mouth until I've washed it. If I drop food on the floor, everything like that. No, things that actually have to do with hygiene, yeah, I'm pretty tight on. And I believe in soap, I really believe in the germ theory of disease and the effectiveness of soap. Yeah,
Yes, okay, I'll say this. Yes, soap is important. I wash my hands, I use shampoo, like the whole thing. But, you say that it's unusual that these guys are so tidy, but in my experience, okay, listen. Okay, guys in general, I find they're very tidy, and girls are slobs. Like, we just.
This all comes back to you having horrible taste in men.
Well, like, just to give you an example, right? Like, it was like I live alone, right? I have 2 bathrooms, right? So I take up both bathrooms. Like, my stuff, I'm not gonna lie, it's everywhere. 'Cause I live alone, I can do it. So my dad and my brother were here visiting. My brother had like a interview in this city, so he was here, and my dad, he walks into the bathroom. And I'm like in the other room. He's like, "Hey, Leanna, can you come, clear your stuff out of the bathroom?" And I'm thinking like, what stuff is in there? Like, there's no stuff in there. And I get in there, and there's like bras everywhere. And there's like tampons. Yeah. Like all those like typical feminine stuff. And I was like, you know what? Wow, I am such a slob. Like, I am not tidy at all. Like, guys are tidy.
So you've been dating repressed homosexuals. That's your problem. All these men are gay. For me, I love that shit. I wear that as a badge. If my boss came over to my apartment, because my boss does visit me here, which is fine. I'm happy to have him. He's a nice guy. But like, if my boss came over and I've got women's underwear and bras sitting around, I'm proud. I'm happy about it. Yeah, it's good, man. This is my nest.
I'm just gonna say, I think girls. I know what you think, but I'm just saying, girls just have a lot of stuff. Yes. We just a lot of things. I don't know why, but every girl I know, you walk into their bedroom and it's just like, so much. Right. And then you go into a guy's room and it's just like, right. They wear the same pair of jeans every single day. Like, they just don't have much stuff.
But I'm at the opposite. I'm in a perfect position to understand with that. So, like, I know. So as a girl, you have the makeup stuff, you have the hair stuff, you have all the body stuff, and I have nothing. Because I've never worn makeup in my life, but also I've been shaving my head since I was like 16. So I've never even had hair as an adult. I don't even own a comb. I don't own one brush. So no, in terms of sharing the bathroom, other guys are like, "Oh, I need this space. You're taking it." For me, nope. It can be all you. I don't give a fuck. I have no makeup. I have no beauty products. I don't own a comb. I own nothing. And I remember one of the women who's been she's been sending me selfies in the bathroom mirror. And she is an extremely objectively good-looking woman. There's more than one level of commitment here sending me the bathroom selfie. Because in that mirror, you can see just how much she's invested in makeup, hair. Could you make a list of all the stuff in that bathroom, But it doesn't, no, I know exactly the kind of like male fear, but that does not bother me at all. Yeah. I don't know though, man. I think it's a fear for men. It's a fear of being dominated. It's a fear that the woman is going to be the dominant influence in your life. So what? I mean, what do you need to dominate? I don't know. But it's normally the case. The woman, sure, whether it's in the kitchen or the bathroom or the bedroom, sure, probably 90% of your space is your woman's shit. But still,
Well,
that's why monogamy works. That's why it's so hard to have 2 or 3 wives at the same time. If it's only one woman, what's the fucking problem? I don't know. If you got 2 or 3, maybe that gets tough. I don't know.
well, you say that you wouldn't take up much space, but you need space for all your soap, right?
Well, you know what the most funny contrast to what that was? In Laos. So Laos, in some ways, they're culturally unique. In some ways, they're very similar to Thailand because it's a separate country, but the cultures overlap. In Laos, the men have this really big hang-up about women's underwear. That women's underwear will steal your spiritual powers as a man. It's really weird. So like they have all this shit like women's underwear always has to be hung on the laundry line lower than the men's clothing. I'm not like they take it really seriously. It's like black magic to them. It's like, no, man, you can't let a woman put her bra or her panties like up high. It's like, what the fuck? And like seriously, so I was a scholar of Buddhism at the time, and I'm reading like so in Buddhism, the Bible is like 100 books long. Like our equivalent to the Bible is many, many volumes of text. It's a huge amount of scripture, whatever you want to say. And I had Laotian guys asking me this kind of question. They come up to me and be like, hey man, like I hear you're a scholar of ancient Buddhism. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. Like, so you actually read the ancient language. You read Pali, which is like reading ancient Latin. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, tell me, man, I always want to know. What does it say about letting your girlfriend hang her panties on? You seriously imagine there's like a lecture from the Buddha. Thou shalt not allow thy woman to hang her underwear in the bathroom higher than your... Yeah. They were really hung up about it. Like some of them interpret it as you can't ever let your girlfriend's underclothes be higher than your own head. And some of them was like, you can't let it be higher than your own clothing. They were really, really fucked up about this stuff because like it's gonna steal your spiritual potency or something. And not joking.
I think I quite like that idea that like just my undergarments have such power, Like
yeah, but it's oppressive. Why shouldn't your underwear always be on top? I don't know what's special about my underwear. Why do I take priority?
À-bas-le-ciel.